Welcome to DFS Insights, where the game behind the game comes to life. I am David Geislinger, and alongside me is David Grant Jr., my cousin and co-strategist. The teams up on the block are the Sacramento Kings at the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yes, sir. This is where each of us are going to be giving you our three key players to focus on while creating all of your lineups. David and I are going to give you a quick breakdown of what we like about the three main plays, and make sure to stay tuned until the very end, where we're going to give you two absolutely free lineups.
Nice. No, I'm excited to finally get to cover a Kings game, but lo and behold, who's it against? The Los Angeles Lakers. So
I know, right?
Yeah, seems to be, starting to become our team here to at least cover, not as a team I'm ever going to root for, but we were definitely wrong. Criticizing everybody for saying LA was the favorites against OKC by that -1, or by 1 point, and they ended up winning. So good for them.
Man, yeah.
But yeah, it looks like
way off.
Yeah, it looks like again they're ahead. They're favored over the Kings, which if they're favored over OKC, then of course they should be favored over the Kings. It's only 2.5. The over/under on this game is 238.5 as well. This is the first game of a back-to-back for both of them, and also the second game of a 3-4, 3 games in 4 days. So, Kings are currently 7th in the West, 5-5 in their last 10. They just blew a 20-point lead against Chicago, so they're on a 1-game losing streak, and LA pulled off the victory against OKC, so 1-game winning streak, and they're 7-3, so they are on a hot streak. So I'm not liking that. Kings do have the advantage right now. They are 2-0 this season against the Lakers. Being their last game was quite some time ago. It was November 15th, I believe, and you can see here up on the screen, this is the last matchup that they did have. I'll share my screen here with you so you can see. It looks like it's a pretty interesting game. Looks like Sabonis kind of dominated, and also LeBron James had a game as well. So yeah, I mean, how do you see anything you want to add about the overall strategy of this? And right after this, I can pull up what was the optimal lineup for the game.
No. Nice, yeah. Basically, it's real tough. Both of those games were real close to each other. One was on 10/29, the other was on 11/15. October, and then October, November. It was within the first 10 games, really, of the season. Teams are still, it's the beginning of the season, so you partially take that with a grain of salt. However, the Kings didn't really do anything at the trade deadline, which is extremely frustrating, as you and I talk about daily. However, the Lakers team is a little bit different than what it was before the trade deadline. So, however, most of those players do seem to be hurt. I mean, Vanderbilt's hurt, Wood, and whatnot, Vincent. So, that makes for some, for it to be at least a little bit extra interesting. But so you got that optimal lineup from looks like
that's the 11 15
okay, game. 15. So I believe that one went to overtime.
Yep, overtime. 4 Kings, 1 Laker being LeBron. So it looks like Sabonis MVP, LeBron James sitting at your star, De'Aaron Fox Pro, Herter and Barnes in your utility. So it was a 15-way split. So decently chalky lineup to take over that one. So let's see who. We can let's cover the injuries. It's the Lakers, so here we go. AD and LeBron game time decisions. However, They had a day rest. It is in LA, so I see no reason why they shouldn't play. They are about a game and a half behind the Kings, so being that they probably don't want to play, in that play-in, they're fighting for position, so they should play. Your typical outs: Gabe Vincent, Wood, Castleton, and Vanderbilt for Lakers, and Sasha. Sasha is out for the Kings. Sasha Vesnikov. So, but other than that, let's head over here to start seeing who our key players are. And I will let you go first.
All right. So, after you and I were talking a little bit beforehand, earlier in the day about the salaries, because I was like, man, we know the top guys, Davis, Sabonis, Fox, and James, really is the core there. And I was interesting. I was just waiting to see. We figured they'd all be about 500, apart from each other. And I'm quite, kind of surprised that De'Aaron Fox is the low, 14,000. So that's pretty low. He's usually, 15.5. I've seen him at 16. So, that's not going to be my first play. I'm just kind of throwing that out there as we're getting on here. But my first pick out of our three is going to be Mr. LeBron James at 15,000. So, basically what separates him from AD's at 16.5. So you're saving 1,500. And basically over the past 2 seasons, and we'll even just start here. So that game that you showed with the optimal lineup, he played 35 minutes. He had 28 points, 10 boards, 12 assists, 4 steals, and a block, and 67 points Fanduel wise. And then the other game, he had 49 fantasy points. And basically, last season, all 3 times 3 out of the 4 times he played them, he basically averaged about 59 fantasy points. So, a 60, a 56, and a 58. So his consistency with the floor and his ceiling at that, 67, and we all know his ceiling's even beyond that at 15,000. I just can't ignore that. He's, here we are. This is crunch time. There's 20 games left in the season. And, they're at home. I expect him to see his full allotment of minutes. And I got LeBron James as my first pick. So what are some of your thoughts on that? And then who do you got for your first pick?
Yeah, no, I like LeBron. He was, like you said, in the optimal to star. And that's kind of where I like him. I definitely could also potentially see him as MVP for sure. And he seems to like the Kings because that boosts quite a bit of his numbers. But you can't go bad with LeBron. It's just I'm obviously hoping that he plays. I don't see there any reason he doesn't. He actually only played 30 minutes against OKC, so he did get semi rest in that game. So, and he still averaged a double. He still got a double there. But I see the same potential outcome. I will be pretty heavy with LeBron. He's averaging about, my ownership wise in the games that we've covered so far, about 21.5% in MVP, 28% star, 7% pro. That's average, obviously. It changes with it, but that's roughly, we've covered, this would be the 7th game now with him. So just looking back, keeping track of that. But my first pick will be the MVP of the last matchup here, Mr. Domantas Sabonis. I like him. Can't he averaged a triple double in February. He's a double double freaking machine. I personally thought he was going to be priced over Anthony Davis.
So did I.
But I'll take the extra salary savings, especially with him, because I know, he's clearly can be that MVP. The last matchup when he was in the optimal, he was about 19% owned in MVP, 29% owned star, 11% owned in the pro spot. However, he's averaging in at least the games that we did ownership wise about 52% now in MVP, 19% in star, and only 4% in pro. So I see it'll be maybe a little bit less just because Anthony Davis and LeBron James and even De'Aaron Fox. So I think the ownership wise will be spread out more likely along that 20 to 25% range if I had to think of it. But yeah, I like Sabonis against this, or always say bigs against LA Lakers
yep.
and Kings. So
and again, yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, that's how I started my lineup build. Really was AD, was Sabonis and then AD, but obviously that eats up a lot of salary. So it's a tough fit for both. But having I like Demonis a lot.
Yeah. So well, he's averaging last 5 games 36.2 minutes. Usage is 23. He's averaging 49.7 fantasy points, and he's projected 56.3, which I'm pretty sure right now he's currently the highest projection right now. So
he just as a heads up, he actually fouled out against Chicago with about 5 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine, he would have been on the floor. I mean, we had a 20-point lead, and we ended up losing, I think, by like 3 points. So he would have been on the floor for 5 more minutes, and that's an eternity. He still hit that 50 fantasy point mark there. So as you mentioned, the month of February, he's crushing. And bigs against Lakers, I will have a lot of exposure to Sabonis for sure. And, I'll be mixing it up between MVP and star. As much as I say there's no way he'd be in the pro spot, that's what I thought with the OKC game the other night. And SGA at 17.5 was optimal at the pro spot.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know that it's an outlier type of a thing. But
outliers win you $10,000 in fantasy. So
that they do. Oh, that they do.
So heading with that, I'll go over to my second player, switching over here to the Lakers, going back to D'Angelo Russell. I do like him basically in all the spots with the exception of MVP, and that's just don't get me wrong, he does have MVP potential, at least of late. However, just with AD, Sabonis, LeBron James, and Fox on the same slate, I think it would be higher than likely that he probably doesn't hit that MVP. He's averaging the last 5 games 34.1 minutes. His usage is nice, 21.8, averaging 37.4, and he's projected roughly about 38.5 fantasy points there. Averaging ownership wise, only 2% in MVP, 10% in star, 15.5 in the pro, and about 6% in the flex utility. He was also the last matchup, he was slightly less ownership, but this was, I believe, before he actually got fully into the starting role. He was basically not owned in MVP, 2.5 in star, 17 in pro, and 7 in flex utilities.
Okay.
So he was, but that's, I think, not taking into consideration he was a starter at that time. I like him. He's been firing all cylinders, especially Kings always seem to let 1 or 2 people have career nights against them. The potential that he has a pretty good night is there. So
sorry, go ahead.
And I like him at 12K. He's priced nice for me. So what do you think about D'Angelo Russell here?
I like D'Lo a lot as well. He was in the optimal lineup for both games this season. when they played.
He wasn't in the November one.
He wasn't?
No.
Or not? Wow, that's weird. It's showing me. Wow, I guess the website that I'm on is lying. It's I'll have to double check.
Yes,
that
it was Sabonis, James, Fox, Herter, Barnes. Excuse me.
Okay, so yeah, I guess I'll have to check the site. So I wonder. So if the lineup that you put up there, if that just happened to be the lineup that won, but that there was another one that would have been optimal, you know what I'm saying, that someone didn't put in. Not sure, just something for me to double check, because otherwise I've been going off some wrong stats as far as the winning lineup thing with a couple of these websites I use for information. But anyway, I like D'Lo a lot. I pulled up what he's done the last 4 times he's played Sacramento, and 2 of the times he was with the Lakers, the other 2 he was on Minnesota. But regardless, he basically averages around 36 fantasy points each time he plays us. Usually before it was bigs against Sacramento, it was always like shooting guards that went off against us, and had career night type stuff. So like you mentioned, we're up pace anyway. So at the 12K, like you mentioned also, I don't see him being higher than the pro spot, even if he gets a 42.5 like he had last time. I don't think that'll be good enough with the other guys on the slate to make it into the star. But if you did, that would be as high as I would go, would be the star. But I will definitely have quite a bit of D'Angelo Russell in the pro and the flex. I'm sure he'll be pretty chalky at the flex, but that's fine. I'll be making some other pretty low-owned contrarian moves in other spots. So yeah, I really like the play. I'll be having over the field exposure to him as well.
Nice.
For sure.
Who do you got for your second player here?
So for my second play, I am gonna go. Yeah, I'll save my favorite play for last. So my second play here is going to be Mr. De'Aaron Fox at 14K. Out of the, I'm just going to say the big 4, like we mentioned, AD, LeBron, and then Sabonis and Fox. Fox is the cheapest, and he has the same upside as each one of them. Both times he played them this year, he's averaging about 53 fantasy points. He had 50.5 last game, and then the game before that he had 56.8. So and then even going back to last season, he had a 61 fantasy point game. He had one outlier of 33. He did only play 30 minutes that game, versus he's been getting a lot more minutes in the other games. And then he had a 46 and a 44. So pretty safe to say he's got a nice floor and a nice ceiling at that 14K. So you could play him anywhere. I'd still be a little afraid to have him at MVP, just because of some of his injury. He's kind of coming off an injury and whatnot. But I do like him at the star a lot. I like him at the star. I'll have him in the pro as well. I might 1 out of 10 lineups put him at the MVP just in case, just because you never know. But De'Aaron Fox is definitely, I'll be heavily exposed due to him being that 14,000 and knowing, he does really well typically against the Lakers. So that's my second pick. What are your thoughts on that? And then I'll go ahead and roll into my third pick.
No, I like Fox. That was the only thing kind of making me a little nervous is he's coming off a shoulder injury. He missed 2 games. Not really sure how serious it is, but shoulders, shooting, that's pretty big. There he did end up with 20 points. Looks like he actually did quite a bit, assist wise, but yeah, I think he'll need to have one of those pretty big performances. He was in the optimal last matchup, the November one. in the pro. So, but yeah, I'll have him scattered around. Obviously, a little bit less in the MVP, but I'm definitely going to ensure that he will be in the MVP slot. It'll just be considering who would be faded there, but having him, and then having him over one of the the top players there would definitely set you apart ownership wise. So, at least ownership wise, looking at him, he's averaging about 20% MVP, 29% start, and about 7.5% in the pro. So,
Okay.
yeah, with that, I cannot argue that Fox will be one of my big plays too. So,
Right on. So I'll go ahead and lead it off here with the last pick. This is my favorite pick on the entire slate. I will have him way overexposed at the pro spot here. He is only 9,000, and his name is Mr. Kevin Herter. So pulling up his game log he played all 4 games last season and then played the 2 games this season. And it's got to be a matchup thing for sure. Coach Mike Brown must just know that he crushes this matchup, because no matter what, he got the minutes. He got 30. So going all the way back to 11/11 of 2022 of last season, he had 32 minutes, 32 minutes, 40 minutes, 33 minutes. And then this season, he got 37 minutes and 38 minutes. So the minutes are there because we know how him and Monk can it's like who's hot, kind of gets the minutes. I think it's also going to be some type of matchup thing. He, as you showed, was in the optimal lineup with 49 fantasy points. I don't expect that. But he had 32 fantasy points besides, the game before. Then he had a 41, a 36, a 40, and a 38. So pretty safe to say, especially at 9,000, if he can get me anything over 30, I'm happy. Especially anything over 35, 35 range, he's going to be optimal for sure.
yeah.
So I really like him at the pro spot because he'll be so low owned there. Honestly, he'll be under 10% owned at the pro. When I won the $20,000, it was the Lakers versus the Heat, and a $55 entry. And I did a Duncan Robinson and put him at the pro, and he was only 2% owned. And it was a pretty big tournament, and that's what separated it. It was a super chalky lineup, but I had Duncan Robinson at the pro, and that's why I didn't have to share the money with anybody. So I see Kevin Herter as a Duncan Robinson, basically. He's a 3 and D kind of guy, only a little bit better at rebounding and assisting. So Kevin Herter, that's my top play of the slate. I know we only do 3. I do want to give a little shout out. Well, here, I'll let you do your last one, and in case it isn't who I was going to say, then I'll throw him in there. So what are your thoughts on on Kevin Herter, and then who do you got for your last pick?
Yeah, no, I like Kevin Herter. I think that all those minutes too, keep in mind, was before he actually got, basically, I would say benched, put onto second unit. I mean, obviously he's worked his way back up. But yeah, I think it depends. Like if his first 2 shots fall, then I think he'll have a good night. He just needs to see that ball go into the hoop initially. If not, unfortunately, I think his floor is not where I like it to be. He had 5 points against.
I
mean, just recently against Denver, 5 points, and then you go back to OKC, 5 points. So I mean, he does have games where but even still, the last 2 games, he basically had 20. So that's still good. I like him at 9K. would prefer him to be maybe 8-5.
Well, hey, but that's I'm hoping people are going to look at the game log here of just recently. And again, note, so 23 minutes, 32, 18, 37. I mean, that's, and then 24 and then 31. Again, I'm saying the minutes here. So they're all over the place. And part of that has to be matchup. I know it's also, like you're saying, it's going to be performance based also. Did those first couple shots fall? Is he playing defense the right way? But the big thing is also matchup. And I just think, you know, again, we got 6 games sample size here. And again, even if you want to break it down to the home away splits, he does better at LA than he does at home.
Yeah, but like, yeah, I'm not saying, I'm not trying to say he's a bad pick, but I just like, even still, like if you look at last matchup, Hachimura wasn't in the starting lineup, so probably be more unlikely Hachimura be guarding him. So we don't really know how that's going to impact his play. So I mean, there's a lot of different things, and also, you know, Lakers have momentum. They're, you know, they're down. They need, so I mean, everything's in play. But no, I like it. I like him as a play. Yeah, flex would be obviously. Pro would be the ownership play for sure. He's sitting, you know, less than, you know, basically not owned an MVP, 0.3 in star. Yeah. About 5% in pro and about 16 in utility. So yeah, the play would definitely be going pro to do the ownership wise. But yeah, no, I like him. I'll definitely have him in the lineups because of, you know, that 9K salary. So
yeah, for sure. Nice, right on. Who you got for your final pick here?
Final pick will be the other shooter on the team, Mr. Keegan Murray. I'm gonna go. The only thing I really don't necessarily like about him is Fanduel's caught on, and now he's at 10K. So yeah, but no, he's been doing pretty good. He's averaging, you know, last 5 games 37.6 minutes. Usage is sitting at about 16.8. Wish it was just a little bit higher. Average fantasy points 34.4, and he's projected roughly about 30.5 in there. I like him in the pro and the utility slot quite a bit. Previous matchups that we have covered, now mind you, this isn't every, you know, average of all the Kings in the past, but these are just the ones we covered. He was in the optimal against Miami at the pro spot, and he's averaging about 1% in the star, 10% in the pro, and about 24% in the flex. So he's basically kind of like that Kevin Huerter play. I think, to be honest, with his salary going up to 10K, I think that pro and utility will flip a little bit because, like you said, a lot of people associate that salary with where they need to put them in the, you know, multiplier or not. So I think being at 10K, people will see the need to put him more in the multiplier spot vice the utility. So I bet you it'll be a little bit more closely even than, you know, 10% pro, 24% utility. I think it'll probably be more like a 15-18 kind of split or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like him in the matchup. He has the potential, you know, to good, and I think he's the same exact thing as Kevin Huerter. He needs to knock down those first couple shots. Kings are heavily, unfortunately, reliant on the 3-point shot. So if they don't get it to fall, then it's going to be one of those games. Keegan's getting pretty good. You know, he seems to be getting, you know, defense-wise, you know, he's averaging at least a block a game in the last 5. He got 3 blocks against Chicago. You know, multiple steals across, you know, the last 5 games as well. So he has offensive and defensive potential there. So that is why I decided to go with him for my third player here.
Yeah, awesome. That works out. That's actually who I wanted to make sure was spoken about. If that wasn't who you were going to say, because I didn't know that that's who you were going with. So yep, I absolutely love that play. I think 10. I've seen him as high as, I want to say 11 or 11.5. I mean, at some point, I mean, I know I've seen him up there.
He was in the beginning of the season, but he's dropped down. The last game we covered, February 25th, Lake Clippers, 9K Miami. He was at 9,500, and that was February 26th. So Keegan Murray at 9K all day, 10K. It's like, okay, 10K. now I got to decide.
yeah. It definitely for sure. But he just, he did have 42 fantasy points in their first matchup. He did only shoot 6 for 14 at 42%, but at least he got up to 14 shots. He went 3 of 9 from 3 in that overtime game. He did shoot up, he put up 7 threes. So it looks like he is feeling comfortable shooting the 3 against the Lakers. I mean, 9 attempts and 7. He went 3 of 9 from the field goal percentage, which was only 33%. And as I mentioned, 2 of 7 from 3. But again, he is starting to do those other things like, the blocks, the steals. He's doing a little bit of everything. So as you mentioned, if he sees the ball go in the basket, it could be a great night for him. So I'll be having him at the pro and the flex. So nice. I'm not going to get, to me, it's pretty clear AD, LeBron, Sabonis, or Fox are going to be, some combination is going to be MVP star out of those 4. So it's like, it's really getting the pro spot right to me, the pro and the utility. So
nice. Well, let's find out who we have in the MVP star and pro, what everybody's been waiting for. Without further ado, here are lineups for the Lakers Kings matchup. Looking pretty good, pretty decent wide range here. So, that's nice that we cover kind of all bases. So as we wrap up today's discussion, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to our channel if you haven't already. This helps us out. And here's a bonus for our community. Head over to our short section for 2 free prize pick players related to today's matchup. Those usually get posted closer to matchup time around about 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's our way of saying thanks and giving you more tools for your DFS arsenal. Whether you're here for the insights or the insider picks, we're here to make your DFS experience top notch. Like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you never miss out on one of our pod/videos here. And let's win big together. And with that, David, send us off.
Yes, sir. Hey, we got another great Kings Lakers. You and me have been diehard Kings fans forever. We've got 2 of these. This is a huge game for us. It's just a huge game. This has a lot of seeding, just making the playoffs intentions, as well as seeding, as well as there's a lot going on here. So the Kings need to step up and get this done. So I think the Kings are gonna pull this one out. I know the Lakers have the momentum. Kings just had a players only meeting. I think that's a good thing. I know we did just lose a 20-point lead after that, but hey, that's all right. We're about to go face the Lakers and take them to school. So any of you Laker fans or Kings, down in the comments below, I'd love to hear what you guys think the score is going to be. Who do you think is going to be the top play? And I will look forward to seeing you guys up at the top of the leaderboard, making that money. Good luck.